Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Brighter Horizons podcast. Welcome to episode 25, the big quarter of 100 episode. And today, for this very special occasion, I have brought a very special guest, Abby. Abby is one of my good school friends, and he's been fiending to get on the podcast. He's got plenty of great ideas that I'm sure all of you guys are going to enjoy. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about two main topics. One is a little bit about Abby, who he is, and in general, the philosophies of life, how he lives his life, how I live my life, and how you may live your life. And then we're also going to be talking about how media affects us and affects the world around us. Effectively, how what we consume shapes who we are. But to start off, let's learn a little bit about our guests. So Abby, why don't you tell us just a little bit about yourself?
So I'm Abby. I love movies. I love anything to do with computers, and I play some video games.
All right, Abby. Well, you know what? Enough beating around the bush. Let's just dive straight in, to the topics. I want to talk to you about your philosophy on life. Why do you choose to get up every morning?
Why do I choose to get up every morning?
What's your motivating factor?
When I wake up, I honestly don't think about any motivation. I just get up and then do what I need to do. I don't say that's discipline. It's just like when I wake up, I have no thoughts in my mind. I just need to get up, brush my teeth, and get some food in my body.
I see. So you live kind of like on a necessity basis.
Yeah.
I see. Okay. So, I'd ask you, what's your end goal in life? What to you tells you that you've made it?
My goal in life is to have a family and children.
That's good. Because I'd say that the leading cause of people failing nowadays, in today's society especially, is a lack of goals, right? They don't see where they want to go, so then they choose not to take any action on it. Right? And I'd say that the way that you've conducted your life, you've chosen a vision that you want to pursue, and, you've gone after it. So I'd ask you, is your simple vision just a family, or is it bigger than that, right? If it comes to finances, what defines your success?
I have to disagree with the whole goal setting thing. I feel like that's an empty way to live, is just chasing one specific goal. It may provide with purpose and temporary the struggle always feels better than the reward. But once you get the reward, what are you living for anymore? That's the problem. That's what I don't want to feel. I want to have a vague goal, maybe a few steps, and then I'll feel happy doing what I want to do.
No, I respect that. I guess I never thought about it so much in that way. So you think that it's more about, it's less about the goal, is what you're saying. And I agree with you on that. I'd say that it's definitely, cliche, obviously, but it's more about the journey than it is about the goal.
Yeah.
But I guess it's, don't you think that it's important to have direction in your life, though?
I'm not exactly saying you shouldn't have goals, but they should always be I wouldn't say the word goal. I feel like the word goal is overused. I think milestones is a better term. You should have specific temporary goal. Temporary short-term goals that you want to fulfill. Mm-hmm. But they shouldn't be overarching, I want to be a billionaire or a millionaire. It should be something small, achievable, weekly goals. Not one end goal. Once I do this, my life's finished.
Yeah. Because after that, then you're just hollow, meaningless, right? You have no use of anything. Yeah. So do you think that it's possible to find a goal that's constantly going? Because for me, I'd say my goal in life, and although extremely vague, is to have a positive impact, right? Is to leave the world in a better situation than when I came in. So to me, by living my life, I try to be a good person at every turn because I feel like I'm leaving a bigger and bigger impact. So do you think that goals like that are more, I'd say, desirable because it's something that you will continuously work towards in your life?
I think it definitely depends on the mentality of a person. Because if you choose a goal that's unachievable, that you can't see in your lifetime, one person may see it as glass half full. Oh, I'm never going to achieve my goal. What's the point in doing this? But some people will be I'm never going to see me achieve my goal, so I can always work to achieving that goal.
Yeah, and kind of enjoy doing it as opposed to just the end goal. So yeah, I'd say that people need to develop a better mentality of enjoying the process as opposed to the finished product, because I feel like in our society, it's always rewarded as just once you're there, good work. But people aren't ever saying good work about the process.
Yeah.
And it's a sad reality, but it's a true one. And I'd ask you, how would you go about changing people's views on this? Because this is people are pretty stubborn about this. People always believe it's just about the next goal, the next goal, the next goal. But clearly it's not a desirable mentality.
I think it's really reinforced in our today's society, especially in schools. The end goal is always more important than the process. Like, we're, at least in Canada, they're starting to change away from tests to like in-class assignments or like projects and stuff like that. Like tests, they just focus on the score and the end goal. And they're like, oh, if you get 100%, that's the best. Not like, how did you study? Do you understand the subject? It's mostly memorization and like, oh, if you know these formulas, you're going to do well.
Yeah, I know. I completely agree. I think, especially like, yeah, nowadays, well, I guess we're starting to lean towards the other side. It's, swinging the pendulum back. But one issue is always it's just about the grade, right? Everybody's competing to get a grade, but it's not the grade that really matters. What matters is if you actually understand the material. So you have all these people that are just doing it to remember everything and then just regurgitating it on the paper. Yeah. And these aren't people that are going to really benefit society because at the end of the day, life isn't really going to be a test. It's more like a project, right? It's something you're going to be working on, and you're probably not going to see results just right away like that, right? Nobody's marking your life. Instead, it's going to be something you build for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something I wanted to add on is like life also helps like it what's the word? It promotes the idea of the end goal. Like everybody's like, oh, if you have this nice car, you're going to be respected more. People are going to like you. People want to go drive in your car. But like if you got that car by like stealing or like selling drugs or something.
Yeah.
I personally wouldn't respect that process. It's not like you worked for it. But if someone like worked from the ground up to buy that car, it just depends on the process rather than the end product.
Yeah, it's funny because we always think it's like admirable what people have, but really what we truly admire is how they got it.
Yeah.
Because, some people achieve far less, but they do it in a way that's far more meaningful. So I would urge everybody out there to stop being so obsessed with showing off the final product as opposed to, how you got there. Because I'd say a lot of even kids nowadays, like when you get something from your parents as a gift and then your friends might be like, yo, where'd you get that? That's so sick. And you're just like, oh, I got it from my parents as a gift.
Yeah.
It's like, there goes all the respect with it, right? It's like, nice, you're driving a Lamborghini, but did you really work for it? Do you actually deserve this vehicle? Do you actually deserve the money that comes with it? No, right? It's all up to, did you deserve it? Did you work for it? What was the process that got you there, right?
And the thing is, I was also going to talk about this, I guess like an example, like drop shippers. They're not really contributing too much to the society because there's like so many of them. And it's like, you're not really feeling a necessity. You're trying to feed into capitalistic desires,
Completely.
like buying this like cool new gadget, but you're not helping anybody. You're not like, yeah.
Exactly.
You're just trying to create wealth for yourself.
Yeah.
For self-purchase.
And 90% of the time, all these people they have the ability to go on AliExpress and just buy the same product for a far cheaper price.
Yeah.
But you are providing some, quicker avenue to get there and marketing it through social media, and you're not really having a positive effect on the world. So I'd say the biggest problem in today's world is the greed. People become super greedy for everything around them, whether it be money, power, fame. These people become obsessed with goals and these final destinations that they just forget about the process. And I'd say one of the biggest processes, if you even want to say, is the people around you. Because these people elevate you to reach your goals, but a lot of successful people, when they get there, sometimes leave the people that are below them where they are, right? They just cut them off and say, hey, you know what? It doesn't matter anymore. Because they've become so obsessed with the goal of money or fame or power that they just forget about how they got there, who brought them there, right? So I'd say to have the mindfulness of the journey as opposed to the end is the most important aspect when going through your life.
That actually reminds me of one of the movies, one of my favorite movies, War Dogs. So you haven't watched it, of
I
course.
haven't, but...
So basically the plot is
Wait. Spoiler warning first, all right? Toss up a spoiler warning. All right, continue.
A section of the plot that I'm going to mention is that the end thing is they get a big military contract from the U.S. government, and they're using it to arm the Afghanistan army.
Yeah.
And they, to get such a good deal on all the ammunition, they go through a arms dealer that's banned from U.S. Military things. That's why he's working with them. and he screws them over. He gives them Chinese ammunition, and during this time, they had a Chinese embargo
Okay.
on Chinese military stuff, so they couldn't use it for the army. So what they chose to do, instead of like taking the loss and canceling the contract for like hundreds of millions of dollars, they choose to repackage the ammunition, which is illegal, with some foreign, I think it was Romania or something. I forgot what European country it was.
Mm.
And they go through with the deal. They're sending ammunition for years, like a year or so. They make a bunch of money, but the two main characters fall out. Like one of them betrays the other one, screws him out of a bunch of money. He doesn't want to do this anymore. One of them doesn't want to do this anymore.
Mhm.
And then years later, like a year or so later, they both get arrested. And the reason they got arrested was because one of the characters, who's super selfish, didn't pay the guy who was baggaging all the ammunition. So he called
wow.
a tip on the U.S. military, and they both got arrested.
That's kind of crazy. But it's interesting because, again, there with the ammunition, they didn't know the real, or I guess it wasn't complicated about the product so much as how it was shipped. Because if it was shipped as a Chinese product, then it's a big problem.
Yeah.
But they ship it as a Romanian product or whatever European country,
Yeah.
then it's absolutely no problem.
And it's like, what I'm trying to get at is like the dude forgot about the process. He left that one baggage guy. He was going to give $100,000 out of like $300 million. He didn't pay him because he didn't think it was important. The process wasn't important. And then he got punished
I
in the
see.
end for it.
Oh, okay, I see. Yeah, that's. I guess the little things do come to bite you,
Yeah.
right? I guess that's karma, really.
Yeah.
I think. Do you believe in karma?
Yeah, sort of. It depends. Like, I think karma is like an overarching thing. It's not going to affect you in like a small sense, like, oh,
Yeah.
if I give this guy $1, it's going to come back to me a million times in the future. I think it's like for small insignificant things, but I think negative karma is real. I think if you do bad things, you're definitely going to get some bad thing to happen to you.
Yeah.
It's mostly like in your mind, like you're thinking, oh, I did that bad thing. Oh no. Like, and then you just make poor choices because like, oh, if I did this bad thing, I can do another bad thing. And it's just adds and adds and adds, and then
Yeah.
it catches up to you eventually.
I guess so. It's all internal, really,
Yeah.
because all these negative effects, like you do wrong things, and the only person it really hurts. Well, I guess that's a bad thing to say because a lot of the time you do hurt other people,
Yeah.
but 90% of the time you'll end up hurting yourself, right? So, I brought up the principle of karma because I also wanted to speak about Buddhism because I grew up Buddhist and I've spoken a lot about it on the podcast because I think it has a lot of valuable lessons to be learned. And same thing I'd say with a lot of religions out there. That's why I think religion is a brilliant thing because it teaches many valuable life lessons through a simple way. And one thing about Buddhism is the idea of detaching yourself from worldly needs.
Yeah.
And once you achieve that, then you can be truly happy. But I always found that I don't think it's that way because I think that without suffering, happiness can't exist, right? And it's funny because people construe this idea about Buddhism saying that, oh, this is the way to eternal happiness. But like if you actually go and look at what the Buddha says, is that he says that it's a way to eternal lack of suffering. So it's not that you have happiness, it's that you don't have suffering.
Yeah.
So, and the only way to do it is to let go of these things that you crave so much. So in the end of your life, if you constantly are just chasing the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, you'll never really feel that fulfillment, right? Because in the end, there's always more, right? The grass is always greener on the other side. So you'll continue to chase and chase and chase. And for what, right? It doesn't really matter. Every next goal isn't important. Every distance between those goals is important. Because if you think about it like a scale, and on the scale, you've got like all your different goals or whatever. And if you really think about it, when you achieve goals, it's a fraction of the time, right? It's just like a minute or an hour or maybe a day. But the time it took you to get there is a far bigger portion, right? So people would think that obviously that's the more important section, right? Because that's all the work that really went into that little jump that you feel there, right? So instead, if you're able to enjoy it all the way through, you're going to have 10 times as many, dopamine hits of happiness because you've enjoyed doing all the things that you've done on the way, right?
To add on the Buddhist thing, like I think it was Naval Ravikant who said it, who's like one of my biggest inspirations. He's a Silicon Valley like entrepreneur and investor. He said that there's so many monks like suffering and meditating and stuff like that. But there's only one Buddha. And it's like it's not saying that meditating and the whole Buddhist like practicing and like meditation and everything is not wrong. It's that they focus on the process of doing it and ignore the end goal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree. Because, yeah, a lot of these monks, most of them know that they're not going to attain what the Buddha attained. Because, truthfully, nobody does. If you really read about the Buddha story, the hardships that he went through to get there is inhuman, right? You can't achieve it. So, you could ask yourself, why do all these people chase it? But it's because it's about, the time spent doing it, not so much about what you're going to achieve from it. And I tell people that this is what I'd say about being a good person. Because a lot of the time, yeah, you give $5 to a homeless dude, and so what, right? It doesn't benefit you in any way, but I think it's a peace of mind kind of thing, right? To go out there and not worry about what you're gonna get out of everything. If you go through your life trying to get, then you're gonna lose a lot more than anybody else. And that's why I'd urge you all to go read The Go-Giver. It's a good book, and it's a business book. And while the stories seem far-fetched, I like the principle. And the whole premise of the book is that there's this guy, and he's, working this job. I think it's at a as a stockbroker. I don't remember. But he's constantly working this job, and he just can't seem to land clients. He can't get money, right? And then one day he speaks with this guy who's making like a ton of money, but people don't see him going out very often. So he speaks with him, and he gets referred to a bunch of people, and he talks to all these different people. But all these people have one common theme to their success, and their success was that they went out and gave to other people, right? Like, for example, one guy owned a pizza restaurant, and he gave out free pizzas to the first few customers, right? And he built reputation with those people. So what I learned from that book, and personally in my life that I try to apply, is that it's not always about what you get back. It's always about what you give out. Because eventually it might come back, but don't live your life on the pretense that it will. Instead, believe that, you know what, I'm going to do things good because that's the kind of person that I am.
Yeah. Something that actually reminded me of, it was from this anime, Jujutsu Kaisen.
Yeah.
One of the characters, Nanami, he's a sorcerer initially. He went to school for it, and then he left because he didn't feel like he was valued there. He went to become like a stockbroker and made money for more rich people. But like that life felt empty to him. So he went back to killing like curses.
Yeah.
He went back to killing curses, and he felt more like he felt purpose. Like he was giving, he was helping people rather than focusing on his own goals, making money and like helping nobody by just getting rich people even more richer.
Exactly.
And like he ends up dying in the spoilers. My bad.
Yeah,
Spoilers.
that's a big spoiler. That's even a spoiler for me. I actually haven't watched the.
My bad.
Well, all right.
Okay.
That's fine.
He's part of the.
Yeah.
It's part of the. Okay, crap.
Well, it's fine.
Okay, he ends up dying, and when he dies, he visualizes Malaysia, and that's like paradise to him.
Okay.
Like he's like completely on the beach, like relaxing. He's like as he's dying, and I feel like he only saw that because he spent the rest of the last part of his life helping people and fighting for other people rather than serving himself.
Yeah, I think that at the end of the day, when you, this is one thing that I always talk about here, and I'll talk about for the rest of my life, is that it's not about what you take with you to the grave, more as what you leave behind, right? Your legacy, those footprints that you left in the path, those are what's really going to be felt by the future generations. So what legacy do you leave behind by making a ton of money for yourself, right? You take all that money to the grave, and then what? You leave the world in the same place that you came into it.
Yeah.
And if in any case, you might leave it in a worse case because, with the disparity between, the poor, middle, and like wealthy classes, it's terrible.
Yeah.
So I'd say that you should focus on trying to help the world, because I think you can always achieve your goals or your aspirations, let's say your dreams, through giving, through a process of helping people. I think there's always a way to do that. I never think that your goal should be something that can only be done by harming others. That is not a good goal, honestly, if that's the best way for me to put it. Is that, like, for example, with Nanami, you don't feel fulfilled by just doing it for yourself. It's the idea of leaving behind that positive impact that'll really make you fulfilled at the end of the day, right? When you're lying on your deathbed and there are people there that are there for you, that's, I'd say, the most fulfilling thing that you could ever have.
Yeah, it reminds me of this quote I heard on a podcast. I can't remember the podcast. I feel kind of bad about that because it's a really good quote. It really helped me in life. It's you can choose a life of ease and comfort, or you could choose a life of service and adventure.
Oh man, I've heard that too.
Yeah,
Ah,
such a powerful quote.
I know, it is. Oh wait, I want to remember it. It could have been Chris Williamson, but I don't know.
I can't remember his name.
Yeah, that's very tragic. But yes, I know I've heard that quote, and I completely agree. Do you like? I genuinely ask a lot of the people out there that spend their time, like all their time, and I mean all of it, sitting down and watching TV and not doing anything of meaning in their life. And I wonder, because if that's a fulfilling life to you, then it is what it is.
Yeah.
But the way I see it is, you have one chance at this life, and do you really want to let it pass you by? It's what Ferris Bueller said, I think. Oh man, is it life moves so fast? You might be careful because you might miss it. I'm trying to remember
the quote,
exact
but I can't
quote.
remember it now. Oh my god.
This is so sad. This is so tragic. But I think it's that.
It's like life moves so fast. You got to take a minute sometimes to look around at it, something like that.
Yeah, because you might miss it, and then
Butchered
that's what he
it,
said.
yeah.
But yeah, aside from the quote being butchered, you get the
Yeah.
point. Is that life is gonna keep moving, and that's why I fear, or I don't want to say I fear, but I feel really bad all the days when I go to sleep and I didn't do anything. And I think a lot of people feel this is like, you have like a test coming up and you're like, man, I really should have studied today, and then you sit up at night worrying about it. And I'd say it's because you feel like, I just wasted all that time. Because in the end, we all know that our time is limited. That doesn't mean you should be stressing like, oh my God, I'm gonna die one day. What's the point of anything? It's that you have time. You have a limited amount of time here. Make it count, right?
Yeah.
Like, if your mom said you can only have 2 hours to play this video game, you're not gonna spend half the time sitting there staring at the blank screen, right? You would play every minute of it. So why don't you do that with your life? Instead of, going through life looking at blank screens all day, instead, live this screen, right? This real life. You have the most beautiful screen around you, and you don't take any of it in.
That's the thing about these like streaming services and like YouTube and Instagram Reels and like TikTok. You have so much variety. You have so many things you can watch. You end up not watching any of it because there's too much stuff to watch.
Damn. That's such a good point. I never...
Like,
That's
how
actually-
many times have
yeah.
you gone on Netflix, like, oh, I want to watch a movie, and then you look at movies for like 30 minutes, open one, 20 minutes later, oh, this movie's boring, and you just end up just not watching anything at all.
Yeah. Or like, even like with...
Or
like,
watching something you've already watched.
Yeah. Or something like Reels and like TikTok or Shorts, where you'll watch 50, 100, 200, thousands of them, yet you can't recall any of them. You'll sit through a 2-hour doom scroll, and then at the end of it, you don't remember a reel you watched 5 seconds ago.
Yeah. I think one of the things that's going to tie into the next thing we're talking about, I watched a movie every day for an entire summer, and then afterwards I wrote a review on it on this this platform called Letterboxd. It's like social media for movies.
I mean, you know what? Why don't we just segue into that right now?
Yeah.
Let's talk about media or the influence of media on our society. So, I'd ask you, how influential do you think media is for us?
Well, especially now in the day and age of the digital like marketing and like all these Instagram, TikTok, I think social media is a good tool, but it's used. I wouldn't say it's used improperly. It's just people don't know how to deal with it.
Mhm.
There's so much marketing, like people promoting their businesses, like small business that come out only because of social media, which I think is good. It's really good for the economy. It's really good for the people who do it, but it's also like, if you're scrolling like through social media, especially like with this AI stuff, half the time I don't know it's an ad until they show the product.
Yeah.
Like there's this clip of a podcast. I think you might have talked this on the podcast before. Like there's a clip of a podcast, and then they show like this one product, and like, whoa, what is that? And it really seems like it's a podcast clip because there's so many formatted clips like that, but it's really an ad created by the company.
Yeah, and I know, I find it like these or the changes that have been made in social media in such a short time is kind of crazy. I feel like it's just accelerated our world in a way that we haven't imagined, right? Like, I feel like things change so much quicker now with social media, and I think a lot of us are getting caught up in it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people nowadays are letting time fly by a lot faster because of it, right? I think our time flies by a lot faster because of it, right? Because before, in way back when, you wanted to figure out something that happened down the block, it would take you at least half the day to figure it out.
Yeah.
Now we figure out what happens on the other side of the world in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
It's scary. It's brilliant. I think it's brilliant because our world has never been more connected than it is now, right? You're able to chat with people across the planet at whichever given time you want, and I think that's a very good part of social media. But the problem lies in the fact that people are letting this time pass by them like very quickly.
I think it's a gift and a curse, especially with like the current conflicts that's going on. Like, say, for example, like Ukraine. Everybody was outraged against Russia. Like everybody's donating to help Ukraine. But like for me at least, a month later, I could hear nothing on like my social media pages. Like I scroll through TikTok, I see nothing. But like a few weeks or like I guess a month later, I see it like on everything. Everybody's talking about like we need to help Ukrainians get out of Ukraine and like go to Poland and stuff. And I'm not gonna comment on like any of these like conflicts, say who's right, who's wrong. Like for example, the Israel-Palestine conflict that's happening right now. A lot of it you wouldn't know all this information if it wasn't posted on social media, and you don't know what's propaganda and what's
exactly.
truthful.
That's
biggest
what I
problem.
was going to get to is that while this is the most connected we've ever been,
Yeah.
this is also the most amount of false information that's ever been put out there, and you need to be so careful with it because there was, for example, in our lives there was the little mishap with the yearbook that I'll explain the situation to any of you that don't know. So at our school, we all got yearbooks for graduation and year end and such. But the publishing company at the end of the book put a current events section where they depicted the events happening in Israel and Palestine, but it was a one-sided article, I'll say. Not that they were biased so much as the facts they presented kind of benefited one side. Like anybody could see it. So this, caused an outrage at our school and everything. There was a big conflict about that.
Yeah.
But I think that's a big problem with it is that everybody is now, it's easier to fight about things. It's easier to be in conflict nowadays because of this connection, right? And you need to be very careful while browsing because I think subconsciously we are affected by the media we consume a lot more than we think. Because I don't think oftentimes we go into whether it be, I'd say movies are far more influential to our character than anything else, but really any form of media, you usually don't go into it thinking this is going to absolutely revolutionize who I am as a person. Mm-hmm. But then you go through it and you're like, damn, this gives me a really, kind of different idea on what, life means or whatever, right? It gives you a new idea, a new view on a philosophy. So that's why you need to be careful because subconsciously you're not always thinking about that. Mm-hmm. So even while you're scrolling, you're like, oh, that's kind of interesting. You have to be like, okay, but what side is this coming from? Where am I getting this information? Because I found myself, I'd be scrolling and I'd see, a video about Palestine. I'd be like, oh my God, this is so horrible. And then I see someone explaining it from Israel's side and I'm like, oh, that's also horrible. And then I find myself in this like internal conflict of, oh my God, who's right? In the end, I don't even have all the facts. Why am I trying to make a decision on it? Yeah. But these little like tidbits of information make your brain think. They make you subconsciously activate your opinion, right? And I want to talk to you, because you're a bit of the movie connoisseur here, about the influence of movies in media, because I think that they are the most influential, the most influential form of media out there, because I've seen in my life that movies have really affected it. I'd say probably yours in a higher degree, because you've definitely watched a lot more movies. But you did mention it earlier about the watching a movie a day for all of summer and writing the review on it. So I want to ask you, like, why'd you do that? Or, like, and your experience with it.
So the reason I did that is I wanted to, I guess it's like a form of like false, I wouldn't say false, but it's like a form of false accomplishment. Like if you do something every day and then you've done it for like the summer, like 90 days, you're going to look back and be like, wow, I actually did that. I committed. It may not be like the healthiest thing to watch a 2-hour movie and then spend some time, but it's what I enjoy and it fed my passion. And like what you were just saying, I've lost my complete thoughts gone now. What you were just saying, movies being the most influential like form of media. And I think it's that because it combines every single art form that we have. Like whether it be dance, whether it be like action, whether it be acting, whether it be music, it's like it's all these things combined into one thing. And I think one of my favorite movies that actually does that is La La Land. I made
Yeah.
you watch it.
I did watch it.
And
And
can you tell me what you think?
okay, first off, spoiler warning. We're probably gonna talk about the movie quite a
Yeah.
bit here, so throwing up another spoiler warning. But I really enjoyed the movie as a movie, but I feel like I didn't understand the deeper themes. Like especially at the end of the movie when she goes to Seb's and everything, and then it's like the flashback of like their life, but then it's her with him, and
Yeah.
like I didn't get it. I think, and then I know there's like color theory with it too, but I also genuinely like as a movie, I don't usually watch this type. Like I'm a big just action movie kind of guy. But I watched this movie and I was like, I genuinely enjoyed it. And then the musical like notes were actually good. It was really enjoyable.
Yeah.
Like I could find myself listening to that soundtrack if I really wanted
Yeah.
to. But I wanted you to explain to me like what were some of these deeper themes because I think I missed them.
So, the main point of the movie is like it's based in a romance, of course, which is obvious, but
Yeah.
it's like not really a romance. It's a romance between them and their dreams, and they're just supporting each other. So the theme of like supporting each other is a big one. Like the relationships you make, the people you meet, and the people you love always will help you
Yeah, like
try and
the-
succeed your
yeah,
goal. But
of
some
course.
people don't. Like for example, it's one of the quotes in the movie. I forgot exactly. It's like it's basically Sebastian. He's
Yeah.
describing most of the people in Hollywood and LA as fake.
Mm.
And I think the things that draws the two characters, Mia and Seb, together is that they're two real people in a world of fake people that they're surrounded by. Especially at the coffee shop. The coffee shop scene is really powerful. It's where like the movie actress comes in,
Yeah.
they fake giving her a free coffee cup knowing that they're going to get tipped, which pays for the coffee cup and gives them money directly to their pocket.
Yeah. I guess I guess now that I think about it, that's a brilliant theme. And the idea of fake people.
Yeah.
I think and maybe I don't know if that was their goal, but I guess maybe they're addressing it in Hollywood is that there is a lot of fake people there, right?
Yeah.
People that are doing things. And I'd say that fake people is a very scary thing in today's reality because it's so prominent and yet so detrimental, right? Because that's why I'd say I try to keep a tight knit close group of friends that I've known for a long time because you have to be very careful with who you're getting into business with and not only with your like whether it comes to money or finances whatever but also about like your life because the people around you also influence it, right? We're influenced by surroundings. So if you're surrounded by 5 people that are telling you you're never gonna make it, I'm telling you, you might not make it.
Yeah.
Because eventually, unless you have that unwavering, sense of self, you are probably gonna begin to believe that you won't make it.
Yeah.
So I would say that you need to genuinely surround yourself with real people that'll tell you the real truth and will stand by your side when you need them, just like Sebastian and Mia.
Yeah. Additionally, the main conflict in the film is them breaking up, right?
Yeah.
And it's because they both became fake people trying to achieve their own goal. Like, for example, I think mainly Sebastian was becoming more fake. He was
Yeah.
joining the band that he didn't want to join just so he can make money. And then he ended up going on tour with them. And that's just like completely, it not only destroyed their relationship by being apart the entire time, it also showed that that Sebastian's not true to his values, that he wants to achieve his one goal of getting a jazz club.
I wanted to ask you, was this movie a big influence in your view that goals aren't everything?
I guess so, actually. I haven't thought of it that way. It's just like I appreciate the movie for what it is. It's a really good movie. And I also love movies where it's motivational. It makes you want to achieve your goal. And I feel like the ending was like I wouldn't say it's the worst part of the movie, but I didn't like it, but it's like a really good ending.
Could you explain the ending to me? I'm not gonna lie, I might be.
So the ending
yeah.
is Mia's married to another man, has
Yeah.
a child. You know that part?
Yeah.
And then Sebastian has his own club.
Yeah.
And then they're locked eyes at the club, and Sebastian's playing the final music for the night. I guess like one of his songs for the night.
Mhm.
And it's like showing their relationship, showing how like what could have been, with they're both achieving their goals, but they end up splitting apart. And then Mia walks out of the club, right?
Yeah.
So what it's trying to say is that like Mia achieved her goal, Seb achieved their goal, but they did it apart. They didn't stay true to each other.
Yeah.
But like they did, especially with Seb's logo for the club. It's the club logo that Mia made. So she did lift him up. She did help him get to his club, but they didn't stay together through the whole process. Especially when Seb comes to her parents' house where she's staying to bring her to the audition. Well, yeah, sort of audition.
Exactly.
Near the end of the movie.
So it's that I guess it's exactly what we talked about, is that they got so focused on the goals that they left behind the process, right? Their process was each other, the people, right? They had each other, and that's what guided them to where they wanted to go. And I guess you could see that kind of towards the end. I don't think that either of them were truly fulfilled. And I'd assume that's why, the movie color tends towards blue, is because it's kind of a sadder theme. And I'd urge you all to go. I guess if you've heard all this, it might ruin the movie for you, but go out there and watch the movie anyway. It's a really good movie. Don't go into it with the biased opinion, because I went into it thinking I wouldn't like it, but I watched it and I really liked it. I really enjoyed the movie. Yeah. So I like that theme, that separation was more painful than the happiness that was achieving their goals. Yeah. Right? The goals aren't as important as the people around you and the processes that you make, while getting there.
Yeah. Another movie. Well, I guess moving on from La La Land.
Yeah.
Another movie that I told you to watch and you didn't end up watching, which is fine.
I tried. Yeah.
Is The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. I think this is one of the most influential movies for me, at least. Mm-hmm. And it's not the best movie. It has a bunch of corny jokes and it's more like a fairy tale. It's very unrealistic. So let me just explain the plot.
Spoiler warning. All right, there you go.
Walter Mitty, he works at Life magazine, and he's a photo negatives person. He develops film photos.
Okay.
In a world of digital photos. So he's stuck in the past, but he's really true to his job. He enjoys his job. And he gets a final package of photos for the final magazine because they're switching to all digital. And Walter Mitty, played by Ben Stiller, who's also the director, who did a really good job in the movie, he gets a package of negatives from his idol, this Sean Connolly. He's a wildlife photographer who's really hardcore. He still shoots in film, one of the only people who shoots in film still. And he sends the film, but it's missing one of the negatives, and it's the main negative that Sean Connolly specifically requested to be the cover of the magazine. And Ben Stiller, Walter Mitty, starts panicking. He's like, "Oh, where's this negative? Where's this negative? I need to find it. I need to track him down." And he also has I forgot to mention, he has this love interest. What's her name? This girl. It's not that important. Yeah, she's she seems sort of his age. She's divorced. She has a kid.
Oh, okay.
And the movie starts out with him trying to interact with her on a dating site, and it doesn't work.
I see.
And he contacts the people and see why it doesn't work, and they're like, I don't know. And they ask him what he's done with his life, and he's like, and he just goes quiet, and he daydreams a lot. And he ends up hanging up the phone call, not answering the question, because he missed his train.
I see.
So basically, he chooses to uses this opportunity of a missing negative to talk to the girl he likes. And he talks to her, he meets her kid and stuff like that. And then she tells him, why don't you just fly to Iceland to go find Sean Connolly? And he's like, oh, well, I think it's Greenland initially. Flies to Greenland. And he's like, oh, that's crazy. And then she's like, do it. You might find him. And I'll do some research while I'm here. And then he does it, because she says it, of course.
Yeah.
And he flies to Greenland. He can't find him. But one of the negatives had a photo of a guy with a ring. He finds the guy with the ring, and he realizes he's a helicopter pilot for this ship that also was mentioned in the negatives.
I see.
He goes to the helicopter pilot's drunk.
While flying?
He chugs a beer. It's one of the biggest storms of the year. And then he goes to fly his helicopter to drop some radio parts for a boat. And, of course, you're going to be like, oh, no, I'm not going to go on this drunk guy's helicopter. And, of course, the main character doesn't do that.
Yeah.
But then there's this, one really good cinematic musical scene. This song, Space Oddity by, what's his name? David Bowie?
No idea.
I don't think it's the Major Tom song. Okay. Oh
no.
So basically, it's good. He goes on the thing. It's a leap of faith. He jumps on the helicopter while it's flying, and it's I think it's a metaphor for him, like letting go of his reserved self, which is partly unrealistic because a person like him who's like introvert, he won't like stand up to authority. He wouldn't really do that. He wouldn't even go to Greenland.
Yeah.
But he jumps on the helicopter, then he jumps into the ocean, and he missed the little dinghy that he was supposed to land on to bring the radio parts to the boat.
Ah, I see. Okay.
And then he goes on the boat, blah, blah, blah. He ends up in Iceland. There's a volcano eruption. I'm just like skipping through a bunch of plot here.
Well, it's
he
fine.
dodges the volcano. Okay, I'm just going to stop explaining the story. So the main part of the
Yeah,
story...
okay, the main point, yeah.
The main point of the story is that he's stepping out of his comfort zone, chasing a life of service and adventure. He could have just gave up, quit his job. He was going to get fired anyway. He went for a life of service and adventure, and it fulfilled him. He cleared a bunch of his bucket list. He climbed the Himalayas. He saw a snow leopard. He got chased by a volcano eruption. It's kind of crazy, unrealistic, and he ends up getting the girl. But it really makes you think about, like, everybody's stuck in this box, a 9 to 5, and everybody wants to, like, travel the world and, like, see some things, talk to, like, girls and stuff like that. But a bunch of people don't end up doing it because they're too scared to try.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just need a little push to end up trying.
And I'd say it's, like, the simple analogy is if you dream this big, how can you live like this and expect to achieve anything?
Yeah.
Right? And I like the idea of sometimes you just need a little bit of push.
Yeah.
And that's why the people around you and even what you consume is so important to you. Because I remember back, I think it was last summer, I read David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me. Probably one of my favorite books of all time. And I'd urge you all to read it. Again, such a great read. Easy read as well. But it's so motivational because I remember that day, I was like, I am done living my life like a weak loser. And I remember I filled up my bathtub with ice cold water and I did my first ice bath. And I recorded, I'm like, this day forward, every day I'm going to do an ice bath. I have all the footage still. And every day, I think it was for 90 days, I did an ice bath. And then I had to go to Korea. And that's when I couldn't do it anymore. But it was very sad because I broke my streak there. But sometimes you just need that. You just need that little push.
Yeah.
Right? You just need someone or something to nudge you in the right direction. But I think that in the same way that you can be nudged in the right direction, you can also be nudged in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Right? So, for example, with Walter Mitty, if, for example, the girl told him, no, you should just stay here. You shouldn't go there. It's pointless. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
Then what do you think he would have done? Right? So, in your life, in your situation, you need to understand that at certain points, you're not going to be able to, do it on your own.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're going to need a little bit of outside help,
Yeah.
right? If we go back to the little box analogy, you got this and you got this. You just need one person out there, outside of your little box, to, pull you out. And I think it's funny because we always talk about, thinking outside the box. To solve this problem, you got to think outside the box. It's like you're constantly thinking outside the box, but you never live like you're outside the box, right? All these solutions to these crazy problems you find by, thinking in a way that nobody ever did. But you want to expect great results in your life, then you got to live like nobody else ever did, right? Imagine on your deathbed, you're talking to your family, and they're like, man, grandpa, grandma, what'd you do back then, right? What was your life like? And you're just like, yeah, I sit now, I watch TV. And you got no story to tell. You have no legacy. You have nothing interesting. But imagine if you got to tell your kids, I saw a snow leopard and I outran a volcano eruption. I got in a helicopter with a drunk pilot. That's the kind of life that you want to tell, right?
Yeah.
Not that you should go and get in helicopters with drunk pilots, obviously. But the idea to do the crazy, right? To do the things that are outside of the box. Because in the end, isn't that the kind of life that you want to live? We always fantasize movie lives like, oh my God, that hero is so cool. That person's life is so cool. What they did in this movie is so cool, right? And it's funny because a lot of people use the term, oh, last night was a movie or my life is a movie, right? But most people never really live that, right? If you want to live like a movie, have exciting adventures. Constantly chase adventure because, let's be honest, nobody's going to watch a movie of a dude sitting on a couch all day.
Yeah.
That's important, is to go out there, to experience the adventure instead of this, relaxing and safe life. Because I think the concept of safe is a big risk in and of itself.
Yeah. I think the big push thing, a lot of people don't read books, which is a tragedy.
Yeah.
But Uh, adding to the book thing, it helps your literacy. You should really read more books,
Yeah.
especially you watching. I know you're watching. Um, uh, well, as I was saying, so movies, everybody can watch a movie, whether you can't read or anything. You just hear the words.
Yeah.
It's just movies only work if they're genuinely evoke emotion. And I think Walter Mitty really evoked the emotion of motivation, like inspirational. It just kept being inspirational over and over again. That's one of the biggest like gripes with the movies. That's what people don't like about it. It was just emotional and inspirational. And it was like empty. There's like long stretches where it's empty. Which I don't think is true. I think the cinematography was a big part of the movie. And the inspirationalness, that's the whole point of the movie, in my opinion. I think it's just trying to inspire the viewer. And that's also another push.
Yeah. It's that in the end, what you consume is what you're going to put out, right? It's a common theme that we all know. So by consuming more, I'd say, intellectual literature, whether it be through books or movies, you will definitely find yourself pushing yourself into a direction of a better life, I'd say, because you have a better outlook. I think once you because although I always say that, reading a book is never the same as living it, right? Reading about it isn't living it. They're not the same thing. But it's better to do one of them than none of them, right? So if you don't have the tools to live it, then why not read about it? Because it'll expand your horizons. Like, I'll tell you that I remember I watched Suits for the first time and I was like, damn,
Yeah.
I could be a lawyer. I could be the next Harvey Specter. That would be pretty cool, right? So just by watching that show, it gives you that idea of, oh my God, I could be this. So you never know what show or what movie or what book you might, indulge in, and it might lead you to a passion, right? Because a lot of people find their passions through trial, right? Obviously, without stepping out of your comfort zone, without stepping out of the box to do something different, something that's never been done before, then you're not really gonna get anywhere. And you know what? I'd say you'd probably bring this up before me, but I'll toss this out there. Is one of the most successful entrepreneurs in the music scene, Kanye.
Yeah.
Right? He came out the gate doing things that nobody else would do. And I meant, although his current situation is interesting to say the least, his premise of doing things differently is vital. And, I'll
Yeah.
let you speak on it because, you're the person that knows him best.
I think he right out the gate, he was he started with sampling. A lot of artists back then, some of them used samples, but Kanye used it in every single song. He sampled drums, like he sampled drums out of someone else's song, like Dr. Dre. He put it on Jay-Z's beat, and Kanye for the first three albums, which some people say are his best albums, I won't disagree, but I think that people should be looking at the whole narrative rather than just the individual. Oh, does this song good? Does the song sound good? And the first three albums are very similar. It's like a saga. It's like College Dropout, Late Registration, then Graduation. It's a whole like trilogy. And I think after that, he made a drastic change in his music style. He didn't like only use soul beats and stuff like that. He switched it up. He used, like in Yeezus. Yeezus is very different to all his other albums because Kanye doesn't really think the same way that other people think. He doesn't stick to a specific style. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about people. This also ties to Walter Mitty. Change is like one of the best things you can do, especially dedicated change. If you change for the better, like going to the gym every day or doing the ice bath, you'll benefit not only yourself, but you benefit the people around you by showing that you can change. If I can change, so can you, right?
Mm-hmm. And, oh man, I wish I still had it, but it's the quote from Coach Carter where Cruz is, he says that it's not our inadequacy that frightens us the most, but our... Damn, I can't actually remember the quote. Oh, this is so sad because I remember saying it on a different episode. But the main premise of the quote is that it is our light that... The light that shines through us permits others to do the same. So by doing right, by changing yourself, you give other people the ability to do so,
Yeah.
right? So by pushing yourself to the next limit, to the next boundary, you give other people a permission, if anything, to do the same, to push themselves, right? Because think about it. We're always driven by inspiration. we're always inspired by people. So when I go out there and I see, oh my God, this person revolutionized this game by thinking differently, I'm going to think to myself, I need to think differently, right? I need to solve this problem a different way, because you keep attacking the same problem the same way, you're going to end up with the same result, right? So I'd urge you all out there to think like Kanye, to think like a mad genius, to think like a crazy guy. Everybody might call you crazy, but crazy is what it takes to succeed and to be happy. Because in the end, if you end up living everybody else's life, then you miss out on the opportunity to live yours.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, I'll let you go ahead. You breathe in. Yeah.
So what I was gonna also talk about is adding to that part. People
Yeah.
might be thinking, look, at least I'm trying, or like, at least I'm trying this, I'm doing that. But most people get stuck in the fallacy that, oh, I'm trying, but they're not really trying. They're not putting their 100% into it. They're doing like 10% every day, which isn't as bad as doing 0% every day. But if you put your 100% mental capacity, your physical capacity into something, you either beautifully succeed or you brutally fail. And that's the only way you know you've tried.
Yeah. And the thing about brutal failure is that I still think that there's a beauty in it, because again, it's about the process, right? Everybody's so focused on the goal. If I lose, it's over. But if you talk to any pro sports team, if they knew that they gave everything that they had and still lost a game, they wouldn't sit in that locker room absolutely upset. If every player played their best and they lost because the other team was genuinely a better team, then it is what it is to them, because they know that that's not what's important. It wasn't the outcome that's important, but the process, right? So you need to be driven by process, not by goals.
Yeah. I think one thing that really takes me off is, like, say, for example, after a test, if someone does bad or does good, no matter what, they're going to be like, oh, I wasn't even trying. I barely studied. Like,
Yo, I feel like this is a direct shot at me right now, but
well, I
want
do
to-
it too sometimes,
yeah.
but sometimes it really, like, it either doesn't help when they do good and they say they weren't trying. You'd be like, what's wrong with me? I tried so hard and I did this. But you should be happy that you try hard and they didn't. They got lucky, or they have, like, some sort of mental capacity that's different to you. Everybody's different.
Yeah.
But you should just be proud that you put the work in and your work ethic got whatever you deserved.
I know. I think we talked about it on the last episode, and it's that don't get so involved in everybody else's life that you become uninvolved with yours.
Yeah.
Right? Focus on your own successes, because at the end of the day, other people's don't matter. And this has been a big pushing factor for me, because I see, especially in schools nowadays, a lot of people are so fixated on other people's success. They'd be like, damn, you see what that guy got? That's crazy. This guy got accepted to this university. This guy got accepted to that university. Why does that matter to you, right? And they're like, oh my God, if that person got into that university, how did I not get that? Or that person got that scholarship, how did I not get that? If you gave your 100% effort and didn't get it, then that's on you. That's just, that wasn't in the books for you. But that's okay, right? That's reality. If I put my 100% best effort into a test and I don't get the same mark as somebody else in my class, I'm not going to sit here and feel resentment to myself.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say, damn, I failed. Because did I fail? By my standards, I put in all my effort and I got the best thing I could. Is that really failure? No, because success is defined by you, not by the people around you.
Yeah. I have two things I want to say. One of these analogies, I heard it on a Instagram reel. It was like a motivational one that's really, like, really powerful. It's like, if you're laying on your deathbed and you see all these ghosts around you, and each of them is something that you didn't try or didn't do, and then they're just saying it to you as you're dying, how would you feel?
This is, I think, was it from Denzel Washington's speech?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, University of Pennsylvania. I love that. I remember, because back when I was running for valedictorian, I was reading a lot of speeches or watching a lot of speeches on, like, different graduation speeches, because I was like, what makes these speeches so great? And I remember stumbling on Denzel Washington's, and I was like, I gotta watch this, because I've seen clips of it, and I watched that speech, and it was pretty revolutionary to my life. But yeah, I love that idea. You said you had a second point, right?
I also wanted to talk about how by focusing on other things, it can shape you more than you can think. Like, for example, in one of my favorite animated movies, Megamind.
Yeah.
Megamind initially wanted to help people. He was, like, nice. He was just born in a prison. It's part of your upbringing. He has, like, different values because he was born in sent to a prison from outer space.
Yeah.
But in school, everybody was, like, supporting Metro Man and stuff. And he's like, why don't they support me? Why don't they like me? So he just chose to do the opposite thing as Metro Man because he doesn't want to like copy him. He wants to be bad versus be good. And it's just being the sheep of the other crowd when you're just choosing the opposite thing of other people doing. And I think Megamind, in the end, learned his lesson. He's like, I don't need to be the opposite of Metro Man to be my own person.
Yeah. Honestly, I think Megamind is such a beautiful movie for being an animated movie. I think so many animated movies have so many deeper themes to it, and they go unrecognized, I'd say, and it's very sad. Like, I'd say, I mean, I've talked about it so much on this show, but Avatar: Last Airbender, my favorite show of all time, has a lot of deeper themes when it comes to that, and a lot of wisdom, especially from Uncle Iroh, the goat. But constantly in these kids' shows, we're always reminded of deeper lessons, but a lot of the time we never really think about it because we always take these media as just the face value. So I tell people that you should probably research into what the movie actually means, especially like mind-bending movies that really make you like think. Because like, for example, I remember when we watched Nope, we all were like, oh my God, we're going to watch a horror movie. This is going to be so good. And then we watched the movie and we all hated it because we didn't understand at all what it meant.
I didn't hate it. You guys hated it.
We all hated it because we didn't understand it. But I guess after I actually heard about what the movie was actually about, I was like, oh, okay, you know what? This is actually
I think it's a unique twist on a universal like belief.
Which is? I meant we'll talk about it. Why not?
I think most people are overthinking the movie. It's mostly about animal abuse and exploitation of animals. Like one of the scenes, spoiler alert for an old movie that's like 3 years old. In Nope, there's a scene where a chimpanzee murders like a bunch of people in like a it's a really scary scene.
It was a very scary. That was a terrifying
probably one of the most scary scenes in the entire movie.
Yeah.
He murders like a bunch of people on the set of a show because the balloon popped. And it's like, obviously, the chimpanzee's crazy. Oh, he killed everybody. It's a bad thing. But they were also exploiting the animal for, like, views on a TV show. Because it's a cool gimmick. Oh, a monkey person. It's like a monkey human. But it's dangerous, and it's not fair to the monkey to be exploited that way.
Yeah. And I meant, you want to go with monkey exploitation, you can go to Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
We need to watch the new movie. Because I actually watched all three now, so I'm ready to go. Surefire any day we need to go to the theaters and check it out. But sadly, you're coming to the conclusion of this episode. I'd like to take a moment and say, first off, congratulations to Brighter Horizons Podcast for hitting 25 episodes. Very happy to be doing this. And thank you to Abby. I want you all to make sure to give him positive feedback because he will definitely be on the show in the future 100% again. But before you go, I know it's weird that I'm doing this now, but it's time for Quote of the Week. And as it's funny that we mentioned him earlier, but the quote that I picked is, if you had the opportunity to play this game of life, you need to appreciate every moment. Most people, or a lot of people, don't appreciate their moment until it's past.
Yeah.
And Kanye West, as we said before. But anyway, thank you guys so much for tuning in to episode 25 of the Brighter Horizons podcast. I really appreciate you guys sticking around to the end. But one more thing actually before we go. Abby, you have anything you want to say to the viewers?
I think I have a quote somewhere on my phone.
Oh, okay.
I would actually say. Yep, this one's from Miyamoto Musashi, the greatest samurai of all time.
Yeah.
Do not seek pleasure for its own sake. That's it. That's the entire quote.
I respect that. Short and sweet, how it should be. And first time having 2 quote of the weeks in one episode. See? Doing something different. Thinking outside the box. Revolutionizing the game. But make sure that you go out there and you change your life. You go there and you do something new. To not live within the box that they tell you to live in and the one that you believe is there. Instead, go out there and change your life and make sure that you live a positive life, y'all. Peace out.